What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, one of the great things about this job and new media is moments like this where I get to school some of you. Now, there's a lot going on in boxing, namely with fighters that are quote-unquote daring to be great, jumping up, not respecting weight classes like Paulie Malignaggi said. And I get comments all the time, people wondering like, oh, why are you being critical? This is a good fight. And hashtag weight matters. I do believe that. I understand daring to be great. So this is why in this video, I'm going to break it down and give you guys an idea of daring to be great, when it applies, why weight classes should be respected. I'm trying to freestyle this whole thing, and let's get it in. Now, for starters, I'm going to read a question. I posted a video. I didn't even do the edit, but it was showcasing all the fights where the fighters were quote unquote daring to be great. Canelo versus Khan, fights like Golovkin, Brook, possibly Miguel Cotto, Gamboa, all these fights, and that seems to be the trend now, right? And on that video, I didn't, like I said, I just posted to my Instagram. Make sure you follow me. Pretty good size following there, 30,000 plus. So somebody responded, JC Guzman. He said, didn't Roberto Duran do with Ray Leonard, or Shane Mosley with Oscar De La Hoya, or even Roy Jones Jr., who went from light heavyweight to heavyweight, but I guess they don't matter. And the reason I'm taking one isolated comment is because this is not the first time that I'm hearing stuff like that, where it's like, oh, what about Roberto Duran, right? He dared to be great, and look, he beat Sugar Ray Leonard, yeah. What about Roy Jones Jr., yeah. He beat John Ruiz. De La Hoya, yeah. Or Mosley, okay. So let's break it down. Let's get into the actual factuals. I love this part because some of you all just repeat what you hear, right? You don't know shit about boxing. So let's get it in. And the funny thing is, the person that left that comment, I'm going to use the people he selected to show, because I've heard that before about, oh, Roberto Duran did it and things like that. And I've heard people use some of those same names. So let's take a look at it, and I'll explain to you why those situations to me are completely different, right? First of all, when you talk about Roberto Duran and you talk about Shane Mosley, you're talking about some of the best lightweights ever in boxing history. You know what I mean? The greatest if you type that in, like Google it, greatest lightweights of all time, and this is just a run of the mill. I never even tried this, but I'll do it new media style because I show you guys what I'm talking about. I don't just talk about it. Boxing greatest lightweight, right? Roberto Duran, what I tell you, I knew he would be on the list, right? Let's see if we can find Shane Mosley. Wow, I didn't even have to look for. So I don't know why the fuck Barney Ross with a picture of Stallone. Hey, yo, none of this old Drago. I have no idea why Stallone's picture is for Barney Ross. Horrific. But you can go to any list, anybody's that knows anything about boxing, top 10, top 25 greatest lightweights of all time, and you should find Shane Mosley and you should find Roberto Duran on a respectable list. You know what I mean? Because they were that, right? So that's one thing you have to take into consideration. Look at the fighters jumping up. Are they the greatest lightweights or welterweight or wherever they're coming from of all time? Would you consider them that? Furthermore, look at Shane Mosley. Shout out to Pomona, all my people in Pomona, California. So this is BoxRec. Shout out to BoxRec. Shane Mosley record. This is complete record, 49, 10, and 1. However, at the time he fought Oscar De La Hoya, right, which is right here in 2000, right, he had 34 wins in a row. He was undefeated, right, and he was a dangerous, bad man with vicious knockout power, if you know your boxing. So De La Hoya's right here, but prior to that, count how many KOs, TKOs, or RTDs you see. So knockouts. Look, knockout, 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 knockout. This dude survived. Shout out to Philip Holiday. Knockout, 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 RTD, TKO, right? He won on points here. KO, KO, KO. So once again, look at what he's doing. Now you could argue, oh, who are these guys, Michael Smith? But power is power. If you don't have power, you're not going to just be knocking out a good percentage of 34 different opponents and just knocking them out. You know what I mean? TKOing them. Shane Mosley was a bad man. So for him, he had arrived and he needed to challenge himself. Clearly, these guys weren't doing it, since only a handful, two, I'm looking at two roughly, survived and went the decision with him, right? And I don't even know how many rounds they were, but it doesn't really matter. So he was a knockout artist, and he jumped up to fight Oscar De La Hoya, which he did beat. He beat Oscar De La Hoya, whether you disagree or not. I think the second one, they gave it to him also, but I think De La Hoya might have edged that one out. But the first one he won via split decision. So that's my point. So he needed new challenges. I'm okay with that. When a fighter is cleaned out his division, or it's clear that no one's a match for him at that division, then okay, you know what I mean? You pursue big paydays and big fights and things like that, right? Let's take a look at the great Hands of Stone. And you notice there's a movie being made about Roberto Duran. They just did a premiere in LA. That's because he was a great fighter, right? And I'm not saying these other Kell Brooks and Amir Khans aren't good fighters, right? I'm not saying that at all. But they only make movies about usually people with very interesting stories and people who left their imprint, right? Now, you look at Roberto Duran career-wise, 103 wins with 70 knockouts. Again, a knockout artist. So when did he fight Sugar Ray Leonard? Right about here. So when he beat Sugar Ray Leonard in 1980, right, he already had 72 fights. 72 fights. His 73rd fight was Sugar Ray Leonard, and he beat him, right? Look at the knockouts. He was a knockout machine also. He had a lot. That's why they call him Hands of Stone. Look at all these TKOs and KOs and stuff like that. So to me, situations like that are completely different than, like, let's say Amir Khan moving up to face a bigger guy like a Canelo Alvarez, right? Because Amir Khan has showed certain levels of vulnerability in his past fights. This is Amir Khan's resume, 31-4. He's been knocked out 3 times. So Canelo clearly is one of those. But he just fought Canelo. Before that, he fought Chris Algieri, and he struggled and looked like he got hurt in that first round, I think it was. He blasted Devin Alexander, looked sharp against Luis Collazo, first fight at welterweight. Julio Diaz, he got knocked down in that fight. And other guys like Shawn Porter, he had a draw with Julio Diaz, came back and then shut him out. Keith Thurman, like, pretty much forced him into retirement, right? This is a career lightweight we're talking about. Julio Diaz, who Kendall Holt knocked out bad, YouTube it. And this guy dropped Amir Khan, right? Then he fought Carlos Molina, a 135-pounder. He had to move up to face Amir Khan because Amir Khan had just gotten knocked out by this man, Danny Garcia, and it was a tune-up fight. I'm okay with tune-up fights when you got to get your bearings back. But Danny Garcia knocked him out in the 4th round, I think it was. Before that, he lost to Lamont Peterson. A little bit of controversy there with the hometown referee or whatnot with the points, but it was still a very grueling and competitive fight. So to me, when I heard Canelo Khan, I'm just like, nah, just Canelo's too big. 155, that's too much. And you look at it, so out of all these performances, what made people think that he would beat the much bigger, stronger, good boxer puncher in Saul Alvarez when he's been knocked out multiple times, including a vicious first round knockout to Bradis Prescott back in 2008. Now, I'm not saying people can't bounce back. Sergio Martinez is a perfect example. He got knocked out by Antonio Margarito, and he bounced back and did great things. But I think Sergio, he just overall more durable because guys like Kelly Pavlik, they weren't knocking him out. So I think him learning on the job, he probably didn't have all of his training right and stuff like that, because he probably, I don't know. The longer you fight, the longer you compete, the different things you learn on the job. Sergio Martinez started boxing when he was like 20, 21 or something like that, right? He was a soccer player, a bicyclist or whatnot. And you don't know how to preserve energy. Margarito was, you know what I mean? He has an uncomfortable style, especially at that time when he was in his prime, when he's fighting Paul Williams, before that, stuff like that. He's on top of you too much. So if you don't conserve your energy and you're not familiar with your own style, learn on the job, then you'll definitely can lose to a guy like Margarito. But that's the difference to me, right? The other guy he mentioned was the great Roy Jones. This is one of my favorite fighters of all time, bar none. I tell you that on my channel all the time. Prince Nassim, Roy Jones, and Mike Tyson. Those are probably my go-to guys, and Muhammad Ali, and then Julio Cesar Chavez. But we'll use Mr. Pensacola since that's the other person. Now, granted, this is his complete record, 64-9, 5 knockouts, and most of them were at the end of his career, but that's Roy Jones. The thing is, I studied the game. Roy Jones got robbed in Seoul, Korea, right? He clearly should have medaled in the Olympics, and they robbed him, right? So Roy Jones, when he turned pro, look at all these knockouts: TKO, 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 KO, 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 right? He even beat the great James Lights Out Tony. He even beat Bernard Hopkins. He even beat another guy they're making a movie, Bleed for this, Vinny Pazienza. You could say, okay, maybe Pazienza was later in his career, but still had probably more overall experience than him fighting guys like Roger Mayweather, right? He beat Mike McCallum. Then this was bullshit, but he had a DQ loss to Montel Griffin, right? And he later avenged it. So in March, and he came back in August and knocked out Montel Griffin with this leaping uppercut that was disgusting. Virgil Hill, a decorated amateur, he stopped him with a vicious body shot, right? And I mean, I'm not going to go through his whole resume because David Telasco, there was some showmanship there, and he was dogging Telasco, right? Richard Hall, much taller, just different guys like that. So the point being, he was a dominant force. So you look at this, 1989, all the way to when he fought John Ruiz, which was in 2003. So he was virtually undefeated, with a blemish obviously being the DQ, which he got it for hitting a downed opponent in Montel Griffin, and then that was that. But that wasn't a true loss. He was winning, you know what I mean, clearly winning that fight. So from 88 to 2003, Roy Jones Jr. was untouchable. Nobody was beating him, and the only guy that technically has a win over him is Montel Griffin. And then they rematched later that year, 5 months later, and you clearly seen what happened, KO. So, and Roy Jones, I still remember this. I know some of y'all don't know boxing like this. I remember after he knocked out Montel Griffin, and Larry Merchant was in the ring with them talking, and he was like, "I didn't want to have to do this, but y'all made me." And then Larry Merchant was like, "Why didn't you want to have to do this?" He said, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to turn to the old RJ, because the old RJ, I didn't want him to come out, but y'all made me." And he was feeling himself because he knew that he was winning the first fight, and to have an L on his record, knowing that guy was not a better fighter than him, you know what I mean? He had to clear that up. And he's like, "You don't want me to pull the old RJ out. I don't want to have to do that, because I would have killed that boy by mistake." So make sure you guys study up your boxing. So when you guys are comparing these situations, like Kell Brook, Golovkin's a hell of a fighter. He's a decorated amateur. There's no disputing that. You know what I mean? He has top wins over guys like, I think he even beat Andy Lee in the amateurs. He definitely beat Lucien Bute, knocked him out with headgear. He's 1-1 with Andre Durrell, a great fighter, right? So all these fighters are good, but the whole daring to be great is getting played out. That shit's for the birds to me. I'm okay with fighters taking challenges, daring to be great, but out of all of these daring to be greats, how many are going to actually dare to be great and be successful, right? Shane Mosley dared to be great, and he beat Oscar De La Hoya. Roberto Hands of Stone Duran dared to be great, and he beat Sugar Ray Leonard. Ray Leonard had to come with a whole different approach to fuck with Roberto Duran and beat him twice after that. But the first time, it didn't work, right? Roy Jones was virtually untouchable. Mr. Untouchable, Captain Hook, from 88 to the early 2000s, right? So when you're telling me about these other fighters and comparing, the daring to be great is great, but like Kell Brook, great fighter. I rate him at welterweight, 36-0, no blemishes, 25 knockouts, great. But he could dare to be great in his own division before he moves up to fight a Gennady Golovkin. It's too late now. You already signed the contract, you know what I'm saying? So It's too late. We'll see what he can do. I'm putting my money on Golovkin. I think Golovkin will win. I'll probably do a 7 reasons. That's my personal opinion. But when we say this whole daring to be great, that's okay when you're Shane Mosley and no lightweight can fuck with you. There's no lightweight at that time that was giving him a challenge. He was a knockout artist, right? Roberto Duran had, what was it, 70 plus fights. I'm okay with him daring to be great at that point. You had almost 80 fights. You know what I'm saying? You had over 70 fights. And you're a knockout artist as well. Roy Jones needed a challenge. So people like that, he needed a challenge. He's moving up all these weight classes from when he started in 1988 when he turned pro all the way to the early 2000s. So he went after John Ruiz. I'm okay with that because he's already accomplished. You notice the common denominator? All these guys are accomplished in their prior divisions, like heavily. Kell Brook, again, I rate him. He has a skill set. I think he can even make the Golovkin fight interesting, but I don't think he will win the fight. That's my personal opinion. I don't think his last 3 opponents are great preparation for this man right here. Kevin Bezier, Frankie Gavin, Jojo Dan. So he fought Jojo Dan, who beat this, like, check this out. Jojo Dan beat Kevin Bezier. And it's not about triangle theories. Some of you guys don't know boxing, right? But Jojo Dan beat Kevin Bezier twice. Look, split decision, split decision. He beat him twice. So Kell Brook got stabbed. He wanted to test things, see how his leg was reacting. So he took on his mandatory, Jojo Dan. Then he fought Frankie Gavin, which absolutely didn't need to happen. I think he lost to Leonard Bundu. Let me check. Bingo. Lost to Leonard Bundu and then later fought Kell Brook. Bundu, who got smoked by Keith Thurman. It wasn't a pretty, like, Keith Thurman performance, but he pretty much won all the rounds. It just wasn't that exciting because of the trickery and the craftiness of Bundu. But so Kell Brook took on his mandatory after being stabbed. That's fine because you got to make sure your leg's still operational, you're still mobile. Then he fought Frankie Gavin for God knows what reason. I guess the UK feels that's a big domestic fight, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't a mandatory. And then allegedly his mandatory is a guy who lost twice to a guy he already beat. You know what I'm saying? So when we're talking about resumes, Shawn Porter, bar none, if anyone tries to argue this, I want all of the fans to demolish them. But if you look at Kell Brook's entire resume, and if you try to tell me that there is somebody better on his resume than Shawn Porter, then you need to be stoned, right? Clearly, Shawn Porter is the best name on Kell Brook's resume, right? Vyacheslav Senchenko, okay. Who did he beat? Ricky Hatton out of a 3-year retirement when Ricky Hatton was doing coke and these, I'm not making this up. This is all fact. Ricky Hatton, there's a video I think I seen on World Star where he was snorting coke. He took the Mayweather knockout loss hard, and he took the Pacquiao knockout loss hard, and he was partying, living a crazy life, ballooned up in weight, things like that. He struggled, Kell Brook struggled with Carson Jones, and then later knocked him out. But his face was all bloody in that. He beat Matthew Hatton, I think after Canelo had already beat him. Let me verify, new media style, right? And look, Matthew Hatton 43-7. But let's check this out. Kell Brook, yep, Saul Alvarez. So Kell Brook beat him. Saul Alvarez beat him in 2011. Kell Brook beat him the next year, just as I suspected, right? And then he later lost to Chris Van Heerden, who Errol Spence knocked out brutally and looked good in that fight. But the point being, I'm not trashing Kell Brook. This is his resume. I can't make this up. You guys can see it. The best name on his resume is by far Shawn Porter. You know what I mean? Lovemore, Nadal, and then a bunch of guys that aren't really notable. So for him to dare to be great, I hope you're ready, because Golovkin is not for play. Golovkin is a great fighter. And that, my friends, is my biggest beef with this daring to be great. Stop comparing known legends that were doing legendary things in their division to Amir Khan. Amir Khan had 3 welterweight fights. 3. 1, 2, 3. Uno, dos, tres. That's 3 fights. He beat Collazo, looked sharp there, right? He beat Devin Alexander, spanked him, looked good there. Then he struggled with Chris Algieri coming off of a loss to Manny Pacquiao, where he was moving up from 143, the catchweight that he had the Pacquiao fight, to the full 147, and he got knocked down 6 times by Pacquiao, and he made a competitive fight with Amir Khan, right? And then later got stopped by Errol Spence Jr. So to me, and then Khan took like a year off before he fought Canelo. So you guys can miss me with this whole daring to be great, because I'm okay with people daring to be great, taking risks, but there's a time and there's a place. Etch yourself in the welterweight history books before you fight a guy like Golovkin 2 weight classes higher, right? If Kell Brook beat Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman, dare to be great all the fuck you want. Dare to be, you can go to heavyweight or whatever you feel, oh, I'm much better and realistically, like, do whatever you want at that point. Like the guys like Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley and them guys dare to be great, not only taking a risk fighting De La Hoya and people like that, but because other guys weren't really a match. They needed to challenge themselves, especially like guys like Roy Jones. He's a freak of nature. He's a phenom. So he's daring to be great out of necessity. Nobody was fucking with him at middleweight or whatever, any of those weight classes really. So he went up to heavyweight, like, let me see if I could do this. Let me prove this to myself. And I know, okay, Kell Brook's doing that too, but if he wanted to dare to be great, he could have stayed put in his stacked division of welterweight and dare to be great in that division. Beat Keith Thurman. Show me that. Beat your mandatory, or likely your mandatory after this Sunday, because Errol Spence is favored to beat Leonard Bundu, who already lost to Keith Thurman. But dare to be great there, and then you can dare to be great in other areas and other divisions and stuff like that. And the other thing, the last thing I'll say in closing, is when it comes to this dare to be great stuff, it's like, well, how come the A side is not daring to be great and ever moving up? People say, oh, Golovkin, he wants to stay and he wants to unify. Okay, I mean, that's his option. But at the end of the day, he's still 34 years old. You know he has power, 91% knockout, which is ridiculous. And all of his names are kind of in the same realm, like the Martin Murrays, David Lemieux, okay, Marco Antonio Rubio, guy who's been stopped before, Daniel Gill, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, how come the A side's not daring to be great? Why is Canelo not daring to be great and fight Golovkin at 160, 5 pounds heavier, when he could clearly make it? And he's youthful. He's youthful. He's younger than Golovkin. He's strong, right? He has good ring IQ, good hand speed. Why is he not daring to be great? Or Golovkin when he could have fought Andre Ward, right? So this whole daring to be great thing is getting blown out of proportion, because Golovkin could dare to be great too. At age 34 with a 91% knockout ratio, clearly middleweights are struggling to adapt to your power. You know what I mean? Especially since your division's not stacked like heavyweight, not stacked like welterweight, not stacked like junior middleweight 154, right? So when can he dare to be great? Kell Brooks, he has balls, stones, whatever you want to say, pause. But how come the A-sides are never daring to be great? It's always the people who are facing the A-sides that are doing the daring. Amir Khan. And I'm not throwing shade to them. I give them courage points. But this whole dare to be great, when is it going to pay off? Again, if Kell Brook wins, I'll be the first. That's the thing too. If you know anything about me, which most of you guys don't know me on a personal level, but I'll tell you, I love a great underdog story. I wish Kell Brook well, but I am not going to go against my rational left side of my brain and say he's going to beat this man that you see on your screen when I don't believe that. But I love a good underdog story. I loved when Josecito Lopez stopped Victor Ortiz in a fight he was losing. I'm not saying I wanted to see Ortiz get his jaw broken, but I love situations like that where the underdog wins, that Rocky Balboa. Yo, nothing's over. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and a rainbow. Like, I love that. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't? It's just kind of like a Hollywood movie. So I want Kell Brook to do good. I hope he does good. I hope he can have a good showing. But again, I don't see him beating Gennady Golovkin. But again, when you look at the people listed in the video that some of you guys are saying that have dared to be great, it paid off because they were already great and they're already on their way to greatness. Guys like Kell Brook, he could be great. If he beats Golovkin, he's the man. But guys like Amir Khan and stuff like that, Gamboa versus Cotto, which Cotto's team, I see in this, and you never know, because Cotto's team's now saying that was never an option, but that rumor had to start from somewhere. And I'm not saying they started it, but sometimes it's easy to take the back door when you're getting such a backlash from the announcement. You know what I mean? People throw things out there like, let's see if the fans will trip if Cotto faces Gamboa. And then you start reading the comments, going to forums and boxing videos like mine, and people are like, fuck this fight. They're like, oh shit, so we can't move forward with Gamboa. The public's not receiving this well. So that's my synopsis on the weight gain, moving up in weight. People can do whatever they want. It's a free country. Kell Brook, if he wants to go up to light heavyweight and fight Kovalev and all these circus fights, that's fine. They can do that. Guys like Andre Ward, you notice, like I always say in my videos, it's all about consistency. That's what I give you. Just like I didn't like Canelo Khan, I made 7 reasons why that fight shouldn't happen, right? See, new media just killing y'all boys. Y'all, I don't even know there's nobody out there doing it like this that's really just saying their stuff and backing it up and showing you guys, right? But that's what I do because that's what I want to do for the public. So as you can see, 7 reasons Canelo versus Khan should not happen next. 6 months ago. This was when the fight was first announced. I immediately made this, right? And 68,000 views. So that's the thing. If you see the criticism for Golovkin Brook, if you see it for Canelo Khan, you're gonna see it for Cotto Gamboa, which is in the same. If it's a similar situation, then I'm gonna give you guys the same. If it's no different really, then I'm gonna give you the same outlook. My opinion is not. It's not flubber. My opinion. I have a backbone. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be. I'm not pliable. I'm not just like, oh, Cotto can fight Gamboa because he's there. Like, no, I don't really want to see that unless if the situations are closely mirrored, then I'm gonna tell you that, right? If it's like Andre Ward moving up to fight Kovalev, a dangerous puncher, I'm okay with that because that's different. He's moving up 1 weight class and he's clearly has been the man at 168 for long. He's a gold medalist, right? So if he wants to dare to be great and move up 1 division, that's a fight he'll probably be favored to win. That's the difference. You notice that? Andre Ward, I don't know. I don't know the Vegas odds. I don't really get into the betting. I don't sports bet like that. But Andre Ward, there's a chance he could be the favorite. Maybe he won't because Kovalev is the champion. But either way, if you ask the fans, it's going to be pretty split. Some people will say, oh, Kovalev by knockout. Some people are going to say Ward's going to outbox the hell out of him and he's going to dog him. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really know. But I don't really see many people calling for Kell Brook to knock out Golovkin. I don't see many people that were saying Amir Khan will beat Canelo, and if they did, they weren't really explaining it on my videos. At least they were just saying, oh, Khan wins, you know what I mean? And it was a lot of times you could tell when comments are coming from an emotional place. Like, I look at people's names, they have the same name as Khan, or they're like Khan as their profile picture. Okay, maybe that's why you're riding with him and not giving any explanation, you know what I mean? Or if you have Gennady Golovkin, every video, every comment is pro Golovkin, and you have the Kazakhstan flag as your profile picture, then it's pretty easy and pretty fair to say you're just a fan of that person and you're just going to ride with them no matter what, you know what I mean? Or if someone's saying all this, Floyd will knock out all these people, that doesn't, you know what I mean, he'll knock out Deontay Wilder, and then you have a TMT picture, then okay, that's probably why you're saying that dumb shit, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. That's my personal opinion on weight moves, moving up, the differences. And like I said, I've been wrong in the past. If Kell Brook dogs Golovkin, or if Gamboa gets the fight and dogs Cotto, then I'll make videos. I have no problem showing face and saying, hey, I was wrong. Like I said, I like a good underdog story. Don't see it happening, but I like a good underdog story. So if you're going to dare to be great, when does the greatness come into play? Like, when are we going to see one of these circus fights actually pay off, where the underdog not just exposes or makes someone vulnerable? Because Khan, you could say, did that. Khan did good for 4 rounds, but then he slowed up in the 5th round. The bigger man hitting him with big thudding body shots slowed him up, and then he was ripe for the picking in round 6, got brutally knocked out. We don't know where his career is going to go now because that's a nasty knockout. He was asleep with his eyes open. Let me repeat that. He was asleep with his eyes open. You know what I mean? So that's all I want to know with these circus fights, is when is it going to pay off where the person daring to be great actually succeeds, right? And it's no comparison to legends like Sugar Ray Leonard or Ray Robinson and who did what, Roy Jones and Mosley. You know what I'm saying? And I broke down 3 names that I've heard people use. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next in boxing. But I want to see some of these A-sides dare to be great. If that's the case, let's see the A-sides jump up and weight and dare to be great. Floyd did it, Pacquiao did it, Cotto did it, right? Sergio Martinez did it. Sergio Martinez is one of my favorite fighters. I don't know how many people have heard me say that in past videos, but I love Maravilla. And after he knocked out Paul Williams, he had to dare to be great, because that was a nasty. Paul Williams was one of my favorites too, but I give all the credit in the world for Sergio, because he landed that nasty punch, one of my all-time great knockouts, right? And after he knocked out Paul the Punisher Williams in that fashion, Paul Williams had a chin. He had been in there with Margarito and stuff like that. And after he knocked him out like that, since the first fight they had was a war, and he knocked him out like that in the rematch, nobody really wanted him at 54. So he had to move up, fight bigger guys. He's not a big middleweight just like Golovkin. He had to fight guys at 160, because, I mean, who wanted him at 54? A southpaw with his hands down like Roy Jones, who's kind of slippery and has knockout power, you know what I'm saying? And is athletic. It doesn't look good, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people that have dared to be great, but a lot of them have been successful. So I'm just waiting for that moment. Let's see when one of these guys are successful. And stuff like Amir Khan. Amir Khan, the whole world wanted to see Amir Khan versus Kell Brook, and I was one of the #1 supporters of that fight. So if you want to dare to be great, you can dare to be great and have that, because that's for all the marbles in the UK. Who will win, right? That's why boxing's all screwy. Canelo could dare to be great and fight Golovkin in a mega fight, but Canelo's fighting Liam Smith and Canelo's fighting Khan, right? And Golovkin's fighting a welterweight. And Amir Khan could have stayed put in his own division and dared to be great and fought Kell Brook, and Kell Brook didn't have to go up and fight Golovkin. They could have fought each other. That's a dare to be great type of fight, because the loser is going to have some explaining to do. They both have their accounts on what happened when they sparred years ago. They had some bad blood in the media and interviews. So to me, that's daring to be great. Fight the person in your backyard, because just like same thing with Kell Brook, the guy who's rapidly positioning himself to be your mandatory is a guy that's being praised by Floyd Mayweather, Freddie Roach, and then some. And he's been to the Olympics, and that's Errol Spence Jr., right? I met him, interviewed him. He said he wants Kell Brook, right? So you could dare to be great. Pay the step aside money to Leonard Bundu or Konstantin Ponomarev and say, you know what, I want him straight away. I'm Kell Brook. I'm going to show him what's up. He compared him to Jeff Lacey, right? Okay, so you prove that he's Jeff Lacey and beat him. That's daring to be great to me, because that's a good fight. And the other last thing I'm going to say, and I'm really going to wrap it up this time, is the whole daring to be great. Another reason why I'm not okay with it is because before and after, you typically see a change in what's said. Amir Khan, before the fight, he's like, oh, who knows? Maybe Amir Khan is a full middleweight, and maybe I fight Golovkin. Maybe I mean, I was killing myself to make weight. He was like saying he was killing himself to make welter, which might have been true. I don't know. But then after he gets knocked out by Khan or Canelo, he says he's dropping back down to welterweight. So if you're killing yourself to make weight to the point where you couldn't do it anymore, then why are you dropping back down there after you got knocked out and saying the weight is too much? Same thing with Kell Brook. Kell Brook's like, oh, I'm welterweight, you know, welterweight was too hard to make, and I feel great, and I'm eating what I want, and it's not about dieting. So if Golovkin knocks you out, then I don't want to hear any excuses about how you weren't the biggest man. These guys are saying that skill is going to pay the bills, and that's going to determine the outcome of the fight, not the weight. Okay, so let's see it. And after, if Kell Brook gets knocked smooth out, TKO'd, anything like that, then I don't want to see, oh, he was too big, he was, oh, I'm dropping back, you know what I'm saying, dropping to 54. Stay up at 160 if you feel so great there, no matter what the outcome of Golovkin is. And that wraps it up, my friends. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you like my videos. Always hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.